Good evening. I'm going to talk about why young drivers are dangerous. If you don't know, I'm a state certified driving instructor. I teach teens and adults. Let's go ahead and get it. I'm going to first give you the profile of a young driver. A young driver, many young drivers, the biggest profile than males. Males tend to be more aggressive, drive faster, and have more accidents. Next, males and females are on their level 2 license within the past 6 months. It takes time to learn how to drive. If you got your full license at 16, it's going to take 10 years, just 26. If you got your full license at 17, that takes 10 years, that's 27. We know COVID has pushed things back a half a year, 1 year, 2 years. And drivers ed is very expensive too, so cost is a consideration. Next, driving on a country road during daylight time. I know what you're thinking. It's daylight. Why would drivers crash? Because drivers drive too fast. They let their guard down. There's the soft shoulder, and your soft shoulder is mud on both sides. And if you turn too aggressive or go too fast, you're going to hit that soft shoulder and roll your car over. Next, passengers in the vehicle. The more passengers you have in the vehicle, the more likely you are to crash. Why? We're social people. We love to interact. We love to involve ourselves in other people's conversations, but as a result of those conversations, we get distracted. And if you get distracted, younger drivers tend to not have brain development until they're about 25 years old. They are distractions present: your cell phone, your friends, other things around in the car, outside of the car. Older drivers tend to focus on the task, and that is safe driving. Younger drivers tend to focus more on environmental things or other people in the car. Failure to recognize hazardous situations. It's raining outside. You could hydroplane. It's snowing outside. You could slide off the road. There's heavy traffic. Now you're aggressively tailgating other cars, and someone stops really fast and you rear end them. Next, multi-car crashes occur. Um, if you're driving in a wolf pack of cars, this is a group of cars together, you tend to kind of not really focus on what you're doing. If the pack is doing 75, you're doing 75. One car is doing 77, another car is doing 75, another car is doing 79. I try to teach my students not to be involved in the wolf pack. That's a group of 5, 7, 10, or 12 cars. Either be ahead of the wolf pack or behind the wolf pack. Let's continue. Passenger is killed. How would you like to have that thought on your mind as a young driver that you contributed to your best friend's fatal accident? I know it sounds sad, but we're losing a lot of young people to fatal crashes. Let's talk about some other big things. Distractions are big. Multitasking, um, brushing your hair, sending a text, looking at something on the dashboard. Those things take your mind off the road. Next, cell phone usage requires brain function. And if you're on the cell phone, you're more likely to listen to the call to really interact on the road. So you got to reduce cell phone usage. The prefrontal cortex, yes, I'm a brain doctor now. The prefrontal cortex is not fully developed until you are age 25. Who needs this? If you're new to the United States, if you're a driver between segment one and segment two, or if you're an older driver and you want a refresher to understand what these young people are doing, their brain is not developed. We all know that. So after about 25 years old, you're able to really multitask better. Your decision making is better. You're able to plan better, and you have better social skills. So that is extremely important. Let's continue. How big are factors of distraction? Distractions in young drivers are a continuous thing and a huge concern. Next, a cell phone is equivalent to driving under the influence of alcohol, zero point zero 0.08. Why? Because you're interacting with that call, you're listening to that call, you're processing call, but you should be looking at the road ahead. Let's continue. Young driver is reading a text. It's called texting. Even more importantly, it impairs you. You have attention blindness. You don't see the yellow light. You don't see the car pulling out. You're merging on an expressway, but there's a semi truck behind you trying to change lanes, but they can't. They're trying to slow down, and you lift your foot off the gas to listen to the call. And as a result, the semi truck rear-ends you because you didn't accelerate enough. Next, research reveals that young drivers' brains may not be fully developed until they're 25. Everyone is a little bit different. And because of COVID, that's all kind of put us in a huge fog and has set us back in terms of educational development 1.5 to 3.5 years. How do I know? Because I'm a teacher. Next, let's talk about some discussion items. How many of you talk on the cell phone when driving? There are quite a bit of people that talk on the cell phone. Do you think you can handle it? You need to increase your following distance. I'm not advocating that you talk on the cell phone. I'm advocating that you put that cell phone down. If you have to attend to a call, you get off, you get onto a private area, you talk for a moment, you handle your business, and you get back going. Next, how many of you text messages while you're driving? A lot of people do that. Hey, mom, I'm on the way home. Dad, I'll be home at 9. Texting your boss, I can't come in for 2 hours because I have to stay at school to get tutoring. Okay, so you want to plan ahead. Next, do you believe that experienced drivers can handle multitask better? It depends, but the more things you do, the less likely you are to focus the task. Okay, next, how does your brain development affect your ability to handle distractions? If your brain is not used to handling someone talking to you, using your blinker, making a lane change, you have three things that are interacting with you: your little sister, brother calling your name. For young driver, distractions are compounded with inexperience. If you're driving on a very snowy day during rush hour, you should be driving about 50 or 45, you're at 65 or 70. Someone stops really fast, they hit the brakes, you slide into them or you slide off the road. Next, in recent surveys, teens report 86% engaged in distracted driving behaviors, including texting, talking on the cell phone, eating, and adjusting the radio. You should have those things already set. Have that radio set. We're not against listening to the radio, but have it in the background. If you're listening to a radio station that's really getting you not focusing on driving, you've got to turn that down. Have it in the background. I put a question there. Do you have a car? Please answer it. If this is bringing you value, give it a thumbs up. Give it a like. We're talking about why young drivers are dangerous, why they are distracted. A recent survey said that their driving behaviors reported 75% of adults and 52% of teens resort to cell phone conversations while driving. The phone seems to be the deadliest enemy. Let's talk about some of these discussion items. Why are 13% of young drivers involved in fatal crashes wearing their seatbelt? Because they're driving too fast. They think because, hey, I have on a seatbelt, I'm going to be okay. That's not necessarily the case. Next, why are there fewer alcohol-related crashes involving young drivers? Because there are a lot of campaigns to reduce the likelihood of young people consuming alcohol. Okay. Next, all 8% of all young driver fatal crashes you've been consuming alcohol. You're a first-time driver. You're not used to handling that from that first sip of alcohol. You're under the influence, so you should not be driving. You're underage. Next, 13% of young drivers involved in fatal crashes were wearing their seatbelt. They're going too fast. 63% young drivers involved in fatal crashes were male. We're losing young people, particularly our males. So we need to change our mindset about this. Let's continue. "71% young driver fatal crashes occur on dry surfaces. People tend to drive fast. Most dangerous time is 2 to 5 p.m. You're getting out of school, you're getting out of community college, you're trying to get home, you're trying to get to work. If you are an adult driver, you want to be careful when you're around those school zone areas. You have inexperienced drivers who are flying in the school, flying out of the school. Maybe your son or daughter's playing football. They order Jimmy John's, they order a pizza, they trying to get donuts for the team, and then they come back and they run a light and then get broadsided by a truck. 10% of young driver fatal car crashes happen in the rain. Our young drivers are inexperienced in driving in the rain. There's something called hydroplaning where a film of water is riding on the tire. You got to reduce your speed. You got to focus on driving. Drop that cell phone. Have two hands on the wheel. Be more serious about it. Parents, you need to have a talk with your son or daughter. 1% of young driver fatal crashes happen in the fog. Fog is an atmospheric condition. Very few drivers really have ever seen fog, and they don't know what to do. It's up to us as guardians, as instructors, to teach them, son or daughter, are you okay? It's foggy outside. Have an app on your phone so you can find out what the weather's like in the area. Send your daughter a text, hey, are you okay? Are you driving right now? Take your time. 4% young driver fatal car crashes happen on icy roads. I'm in a region where it's extremely cold. We have, the four seasons. Other of you may just have summer and then fall. So that does make a difference in how we educate our drivers. Here's some discussion items I need you to think about. Why are there fewer single car fatal crashes involving young drivers? Here's the next thing I need you to think about. Why are young drivers involved in fewer rear end collisions? Our cars are much safer today. We have more warning systems. We have more metal surrounding our young drivers. Parents, teens, middle drivers, get a vehicle that will protect you, that has metal around you. I just dropped a question in the chat. Do you have a car? Please take a moment and answer that. And this is bringing you value, give it a thumbs up. Why are there more multi-vehicle than single vehicle crashes? Because a lot of teens tend to drive in packs. Okay, we're social creatures. We tend to rely on our friends for our support, to help us make decisions. So as a result, you're going to have twice as many teens in a car than adults. 65% young driver fatal car crashes happen in two or more vehicles. That's a lot. Here's another discussion item I need you to think about. Why are the majority of young driver fatal car crashes on dry roads where weather is fair? People are not really paying attention to the danger. Sometimes it's more dangerous on a fair day than a rainy, snowy, or foggy day. And as a result, our young drivers drive too fast. 71% of young driver fatal car accidents happen on dry roads. Here's several discussion items I need you to think about. Why are there fewer single car crashes involving young drivers? Drivers tend to drive in packs. Fatal car crashes involving young drivers, 50% of them are driving with 10-year-old vehicles. We're not saying older vehicles are safe, but teens, young drivers, if you can drive a vehicle that is new, 1 or 2 years old, if you can convince your parents, hey, mom, dad, you want me to be safe, right? Yes. Well, I need to be driving the newest vehicle in the home. Teens, young drivers, you got to prove something to your parents. Can you build trust with your parents? If you can build trust with your parents, hey, if I keep on my grades, can I drive the newer car in the house? If I keep on my grades, can we work a deal where I could possibly get a car this summer? Those things are open. Parents, if your son or daughters are willing to work hard, to put into work, consider it, right? We would do anything for our kids. I would too. Teen driver owners are likely to be driving more miles, more tickets, and more risk. So mom and dad, you should not be getting your son or daughter their own vehicle. They should be driving a second or third vehicle because they'll take care of it more. Approximately 1/3 of all fatal crashes involving young drivers, novel, less than 1 or 2 years of experience, young drivers are killed. The first 90 days are very important. You want to see some good fundamentals, good habits. Why are young driver fatal car crashes so high on our roads today? Teens drive more miles today. They drive faster today. Vehicles are more powerful today. Parents, here's the chance for you to jump in that vehicle, teach them the right way, teach them good fundamentals. Here's some things for you to think about. Many beginning drivers lack the ability to recognize dangerous situations. Merging on an expressway in the morning, the road is wet. Exiting the expressway, you're going around that clover leaf, you're going in too fast. You should be at 25, but you're at 45. You overturn the wheel, the rear of the car spins out, it rotates. This one will be controversial, but I want you to understand this. There are multiple ways to hold the steering wheel. There's 9 and 3. There's 10 and 2. There is 7 and 5. AAA recommends 7 and 5. Everyone is a little bit different. There's no absolute best way to turn the steering wheel. It depends on what did your instructor teach you? What country are you in? What province are you in? How was your certified driving instructor taught when they took driver's ed? What does your family do? If your family tends to drive at 9 and 3, you're probably going to do what mom and dad does. If you have long arms like I do, I tend to have my hands down a little lower, that 7 and 5. What if you're driving a long way? Your hands get tired. Okay? So picking in the area on the steering wheel that is really comfortable for you is a very personal thing. We know there's an airbag in the middle. We know this is a specially designed wheel for racing application. I'm just using this for demonstration purposes. Okay. So it varies from person to person. So there is no one best answer. I want all of you to know that and think about it. Approximately 1 in 8 of you, 12% young drivers will be involved in a crash prior the first 3 years of driving. We want to reduce that. Next, 1 in 11 of you of age 16 or older will be in a serious crash prior to your 17th birthday. And there's a group of people, the Gen Z, 11 to 24 years old. That's a whole new discussion. They don't want to drive at all because of Uber, Lyft, mom, dad. You're taking them everywhere. There's no need to drive. So that's a whole nother discussion. So you have these young novel drivers. Then we have the Gen Z because of COVID, because of Uber and Lyft and all these ride sharing programs. There's no motivation for them. And they have timed out of a segment 1 or 72. So now they're 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. You get what I'm saying? They have to go to Secretary of State and get a TIP. A TIP is a temporary instruction permit. Then they practice with someone over 21. But mom and dad, what are you doing? You're working. And when you come home, you don't feel like driving someone. Maybe on the weekend, maybe once a night a week. They need consistent practice. And then if you get them a car, that's another bill, that's insurance, that's maintenance. And if they're not motivated to get a job, you're like, I'm not even going to pay for it because you don't even want to work. Here's some discussion items. Identify and explain the possible errors in an experience. Driving too fast. Driving at night when you're really tired. Driving under the influence. Driving with your friends in the car. And the more passengers you have, the more likely you are to get involved in an accident. If this is bringing you value, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, like, and share. Next, how far reaching is the impact of young driver fatal crashes? It impacts us all. It impacts the emergency workers who rescue you. It impacts the nurses and doctors who try to save you. It impacts your teachers because, John, we will miss you. Those things impact us. It's going to impact the politicians who want to make laws to help our young people from having more accidents. Risk is defined as the chance of death, injury, danger, or loss of life. My job as an instructor, and if you're taking the time to listen and look at my content, I want to educate all of you that I can to be a safe driver. And this is extremely important that you become a safe driver. I put a question in the chat. Do you have a car? Please take the time to answer that. If this is bringing you value, give it a thumbs up. Other reasons young driver errors: lack of experience, driving in downtown Chicago, downtown Detroit. That's different than just driving home from school 2 miles, 3 miles, 5 miles. Failure to recognize hazardous conditions, underlying errors. You're driving too fast and it is raining very hard. Okay. Thank you, Johnny. I appreciate it. Johnny, where are you from, if you don't mind? What state, province? Next, as the number of teen drivers increase, the likelihood of you in the car will have an accident because your friends are talking, they're interacting, they want to look at that snap, they want to see this little TikTok thing, but you're not focused on the road. Next, approximately 127 16 to 17-year-olds are involved in a fatal crash as a driver, passenger, or a pedestrian. We know pedestrians have the right of way, but they will walk out in front of you. They have the little earbuds in. They're not really paying attention. So it's your job as a driver, be that defensive driver. I teach my students, make eye contact. Look at that person. Tell them, stop, or you can go. Just wave them through and just stop. Let them come through. Pedestrians always have the right of way. Serious crash is defined as involving a fatality. Someone has died, an injury, or possibly an injury over $1,000. I want to say thank you today. If you enjoyed this, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Bye, guys.